It's time for ProAm Predictions.
Hello and welcome back to ProAm Predictions. I am Paul O'D from the amateur side, and of course, as always, joining me on the pro side, I have Brian the Pike Man Moore. How are you doing today, Brian?
Hey, what's up, Paul? How are things, man?
I'm doing very well. You have some news to break for us. Well, kind of news that you're breaking. It's been broken already on your behalf.
Yeah, it's been broke. I was a little bit surprised when it came out, but yeah, the cat is out of the bag as such with my next fight versus Perez in Bellator in May. So I'm absolutely buzzing for it and training extremely hard. So it's a great fight. I love it. So I just can't wait to get stuck in.
And that fight is on the same card as the James Gallagher and Peter Queally fight. So that's a huge fight for Irish MMA. Possibly one of the biggest in Irish MMA history, dating back to, I suppose, when Conor headlined the Tree Arena.
Yeah, absolutely. And the two guys are probably my longest serving teammates as well. So yeah. I'm really looking forward to sharing a card with them. It's a great card from top to bottom. You know, the three of us are in three very tough fights that, you know, with wins could see us, you know, get very close to contention. So, you know, huge fights.
And that fight as well is the fourth, I believe, big bantamweight fight on that card. So it's almost like there's a mini tournament at bantamweight. Do you feel like with the title being on the line that night, it's a fight that if you show off what you're capable of and you put on a performance, that it can get you close to that title shot just in that one fight?
Yeah, for sure. Like you can see the way Bellator I feel like they're structuring it purposely, that they have such big bantamweight fights on that show. You know, when you see that happening, you can almost be guaranteed that your next opponent is someone from that card as well.
Yeah.
But look, we have loads to aim for. Well, personally, I have a lot to aim for here. I'm going to see the title fight that night. I'm going to see other top tier bantamweights there. The rankings are out now, so I have a lot to aim for. But it's all starts here by taking Perez's head off, and I'm really confident, and I can't wait to get stuck in. Like I said.
Excellent stuff. And I do want to just ask about Eric. Look, he started the Bellator run with 2 losses, but you go back. He was 7-2 in the UFC, and then after leaving the UFC, went 2-0 in Combache. I mean, he's a high-level opponent. What do you make of his run in Bellator so far, and are you expecting to see the best of Eric Perez in this one?
Yeah, I am. And if you look at his Bellator fights, he got beat by a guy who missed weight by 6 pounds in Michek, you know, which is ridiculous. That fight should never have happened.
Yeah.
And I think he got overzealous and didn't fight smart versus Josh Hill. You know,
yeah.
Hill just done enough to win. I thought it was quite boring, to be honest. But look at he'll have his hands more full than ever in May. I can assure you that. I'm gonna be putting it on from the very start. So I've seen him fight. I've watched him for years, but I don't care. You know what I mean? I'm just ready to go in and do the business.
Very good, and we're of course looking forward to that one. And we are actually going to do a fight companion here in the studio for that card, so we'll be covering that fight live.
Yeah, I won't be around for a Paul.
You're busy that night, yeah?
Yeah, I'll try to do it quick.
Yeah, prior engagement. If you just pop on FaceTime a couple minutes before you walk out, or get the walkout in, it'd be ideal.
I'll tell you what, I'll actually buzz on after. All right.
Good stuff. We do need to talk about some fights. We have a huge Bellator card this week and a huge UFC card this week. It's actually, if you're a fight fan, this is a phenomenal week. We'll touch on Bellator first, and we've picked 3 fights, the top 3 fights off the card that we want to kind of give our picks on, and we might come back and look at some other fights outside of this. But first up, I suppose you've Adam Boric is fighting Jeremy Kennedy, and this is an extremely closely matched bout. You have Boric on a 2-fight win streak, wins over Sanchez and Hamel, dating back to his loss to Darian Caldwell in the Grand Prix. 7-1 overall in Bellator, 16-1 overall in his career. And the guy is not really noted as a finisher. He has 10 finishes in his 16 fights, though. I know he's had a lot of decisions of late, but I just think he is a guy that can go out and finish you. Jeremy Kennedy, on the other hand, is a guy that's known as a finisher. He's 16-2 in his career. Wins over Matt Bissett and Daniel Pineda in his last two. How do you see this fight going, or what do you make of it?
Firstly, I think it's an excellent fight. I think it's beautifully matched.
Yeah.
Both of these guys are excellent, top tier guys, very well rounded. I thought it was odd when you said it that Borix isn't known as a finisher. I've only known him as a finisher. I can see his flying knees. Every time I think of Borix, I just think of the flying knees. I think of his rear naked choke in Dublin. I've never really seen him as anything else, but then again, he's been in against tough guys, and he's been in weird matchups as of late as well, in the sense that he'll get this late notice guy that has a huge record, and he's won a split decision, I remember, as well recently, but he is a finisher, and he'll be looking, and I think he'll need to try and get a finish against Kennedy. I think it's just more of a wily vet. He's been around the scene a lot. He had a good run in the UFC. I think it's a great fight, but I am actually picking Jeremy Kennedy in this one. I think a lot of people, especially Bellator fight fans, would be typically Borix. They would have seen his work in the Bellator cage and will automatically pick him because he's such a good fan favorite. He's a lot of excellent wins. But Jeremy Kennedy, you look a little bit deeper, he's a very, very skillful guy and very experienced, very smart fighter. So I can see him picking up the win by decision, but I think it'll be a very close fight. Yeah,
I mean, Kennedy holds a winning record in Brave, PFL, and the UFC. The guy's no joke. He's only lost in the UFC was actually to Volkanovski, which there you go. Like he has been in there with the best. 1-0 only in his Bellator career, so he is kind of new to those fans. Yeah.
Why did he leave the UFC? Do you know? Because he left to go to Brave, wasn't it? Like, why was that?
No idea. He did a 4-fight contract with them that ended with the loss to Volkanovski. So I couldn't tell you the details around it, whether it was that he wanted more money to leave or they just didn't renew his contract. I'm not really sure. But
I remember reading something. It was about like inactivity, and he wanted to stay more active or something like that. But it didn't really make sense. So I was just going to ask from your own point of view. But anyway, going back to the fights, I think you've got two guys that are absolutely phenomenal. And the way we're going to see the featherweight belt being contested very soon with Pitbull McKee. I'm sure Bellator are looking for contenders to come in.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, so I think it's a great fight. But I can see Kennedy edging it, and I'm going to go with him for a decision here.
Yeah, I'm actually going against you in this one. I'm one of the few that I touched on Boric not being a finisher, and I see this kind of going the way of a decision also, but I do see Boric edging it. I see him coming out fast and getting up on the scorecards, and Kennedy coming on strong late. I think this will be a phenomenal fight and one of the ones to really watch out for at the weekend. But I do see Boric picking up a decision.
Yeah, look, I can see it too. Look, I think it's a coin flip when you've got guys that are that highly skilled. You know, so I was going back and forth. Who do I think is going to win this? You know, I'd be in no way surprised if Boric picked up the W or Kennedy. You know what I mean? So it's just a hard one to pick, but guys at this level. But a fantastic fight for fight fans. We're going to see two very highly skilled guys in there.
For sure. In the co-main event, another huge fight. You have Liz Carmouche coming in and fighting Vanessa Porto, who's making her Bellator debut. Porto's on a 4-fight win streak, wins over Rodriguez and Pearl Gonzalez in her last two. She has some big wins on her career. She has Jennifer Moya, Roxanne Modafferi. She traded wins and losses with Roxanne, actually. She has fought Cyborg and Nunes. Unfortunately lost to both of those, but I think most do, with a 7-4 record in Invicta. And you compare that to Carmouche, who's kind of on the I wouldn't say the tail end of her career, but she's certainly not a spring chicken in MMA. She has a win over Deanna Bennett in her Bellator debut, but before that, she fought for the title in the UFC, losing to Valentina Shevchenko. And this girl has fought everyone as well. She has losses to Tate and Rousey and Shevchenko. She has a win over Valentina Shevchenko earlier in her career, and she's one of only two fighters to do that. Wins over Jennifer Moya, Caitlin Chukagi, and Jessica Andrade. This is for me one of the elite women fights we're going to see this year. You have two girls that have been around for a long time, and have been in there with the very best. For me, I just think Carmouche edges a decision, and I just think she's been at the higher level for longer.
Yeah, I'm very excited for this fight too. But I'm going with Carmouche straight off the bat. I just think that she's been in with such good high level competition. She's seen it all, but she just seems to, always do enough. She
Yeah.
only gets pipped when it's against the highest level of opposition. But I think I think she's just so well rounded, so experienced, that I think she'll pick up the win. Now, her opponent in Porto is a very good fighter and very well rounded, is a finisher herself.
Yeah.
So again, it's a very, very well matched fight. But I'm going to go with Carmouche in this one. They're not giving her an easy fight for sure this time around. It's going to be a very tight fight, but I'm going to go with Carmouche here.
Yeah, for sure. I thought Deanna Bennett was a toughish fight, but she was testing the waters a little bit. Whereas this is, you're being thrown in at the deep end. Even though Porto's coming in and making her debut, she's as legit as they come.
Absolutely. With 22 in age, she's 30 fights, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
In her, for a record, like, that's a very experienced. If you go down through her record, she's KO wins and submission wins, she's decision wins. So she'll have seen it all. I just think Carmouche has seen it all at a higher level. I think that will shine through. Like I said, you've some athletes that are finishers. You've some that do enough that can understand how to win a fight within that 15-minute time frame. And I think Carmouche does that so well.
Yeah, for sure. And of course, on Friday night, we have the very first fight in the light heavyweight Grand Prix, the main event, Ryan Bader versus Leota Magida. And I couldn't be more excited for this thing to get started. You have Ryan Bader. Look, I mean, what can you say about the guy? 27-6. And I just want to actually list out the 6 losses he's had in his career. Obviously, to the aforementioned Leota Machida. He's a loss to Tito Ortiz, a loss to John Jones, Glover Teixeira, Anthony Johnson, and Vadim Nenkov. The very best 205ers in the world in history of MMA are 6 of his losses. Has some big wins, of course. He's win over Fedor, King Mo, Rashad Evans, Rampage. That list goes on and on as well. And you could say the same about Machida. The guy has 10 losses, but I mean, he's fought the absolute best throughout the history of the light heavyweight division. Some notable wins: Vittori, Gegard Mousasi, Dan Henderson, Ryan Bader. You've Couture, Shogun, Evans, Tito Ortiz, BJ Penn, and Rich Franklin. I mean, when you retire and you have those guys on your resume ticked off as victories, and he's a win over Chael Sonnen as well, of course. Yeah, look, these 2 guys are probably going to go down as Hall of Famers, Bellator, UFC, in MMA in general. I just see this one being very, very different to the first one, and it's a long time removed from the first one. And I think Bader's on the up. I think Machida's slowly progressing a slide down. So I think Bader picks up a decision victory in this one.
When you list their accolades, it's just insane.
Yeah,
Leota Machida, you're talking about Hall of Famers. He's a legend. The word gets thrown around left, right, and center these days, but he's an absolute legend of the sport. But this is a tougher and a tighter fight than many will think. I think a lot of people are expecting Ryan Bader to come in and steamroll Machida, and I do have Bader picked. And I actually have him as my bet of the week too. But there's a couple of things, however. Machida has these flashes of brilliance. We've seen it against Chael Sonnen with that beautiful flying knee. Ryan Bader got knocked out in his last fight.
Yep.
I'm not saying is he physically recovered from that? I'm sure he is. But mentally, what kind of an impact does that have? And you listed the losses that he had in his career, and the one that stands out to me the most is the Tito Ortiz loss. That was a long time ago. I'm telling you right now, he lost that in his head before anything else happened.
100%, yeah.
Mentally, he stopped before anything else, and I'm wondering. I'm sure the years have been good enough to him where he has that unbelievable mental strength. He's a champ, you know what I mean, or has been.
Yeah.
I'm sure that it'll bounce back, but it's just that there's that little thing gnawing in my head. Will that mental side play a part, after being knocked out in his last fight? I don't think so. I think he comes in. I think that he puts the work on Machida, and I think he finishes Machida. An aging legend that is Machida, that is. But don't be surprised if you see some flashes of brilliance from Machida. It only takes him once to land. Bader has been knocked out. Machida has a long list of KOs, but I just see that Bader bounces back after a tough loss to Nemkov and picks up the win here by TKO.
Yeah, just touching on what you said there about Bader's mentality and the Machida being this legend of the sport. I think if you date back to pre-Bader picking up the champ status, or even before he picked up the light heavyweight belt with Bellator, I think that might have been an issue. But I think we've seen a progression in where he kind of sees himself and the confidence in himself, like picking up wins over Fedor and King Mo in the heavyweight Grand Prix after picking up that belt. I just think he's a different animal. Nemkov's going to knock out a lot of people. I like that loss to Nemkov. I wouldn't put too much in it, in the sense that I think Nemkov is one of the most skilled light heavyweights on the planet at the moment. Leota Machida is not. Yes, like you say, flashes of brilliance, but I think Bader is a little bit too educated for him now, as opposed to their first bout, and I think he can grind out a decision quite easily against this version of Machida.
Yeah, look at it. It's I agree with you. That's I'm trying to kind of probably create more of a narrative than it's there, but I just don't I don't want to give a legend no hope.
Because of course.
He's a legend for a reason. But I'm a massive fan of Ryan Bader, a huge fan of Ryan Bader. I think what he's done in Bellator has been phenomenal. He's only lost to the very, very best. I think his experience, he's 27 and 6. His experience of being a double weight champ, that'll all play a part in his performance, I'm sure. And I think he'll do the job and come out with a pretty emphatic victory on a Friday night.
Yeah.
What method are you picking for Bader?
Bader by decision for me. I think decision? Yeah. I just think
it's 5-5s, yeah.
Yeah, I know, and light heavyweight, and two guys that none of them like to go 25 minutes. Let's be fair about it. Bader starts to look shot by the fourth round, and I don't think Machida has it in the tank to go 25 minutes very easily right now.
I'm gonna have a side bet with you that this does not go 25 minutes.
No problem. I owe you a euro on the last time we did this bet, so we'll make it a doubles or quits.
Perfect. I'm looking forward to picking up that £2.
We do need to touch on the UFC as well, of course. Saturday night, another huge card for the UFC, and this one that almost fell apart. The card almost fell apart with Darren Till falling out of this card. But Kevin Holland, the trailblazer, the moat, stepped up, and look, I was the first to jump on his back after the last performance and to berate him and tell him that he needs to grow up. But he's sticking true to himself, and he's taking fights on short notice, and he's betting on himself. And I have to bow down and appreciate that a little bit, that the guy is at least not, falling into the trap of, okay, look, I got found out at the top, and I'm going to have to go back and reset. I want him to reset his personality, I suppose, not his fight skills. Fight skills less or so. But yeah, look, you got to appreciate the guy for stepping up. In the co-main event, we'll touch on that first. You have Arnold Allen fighting Sadiq Yusuf, and two guys that are on long win streaks here. Sadiq has a 6-fight win streak. Most latest wins over Andre Fili and Gabriel Benitez. He's coming off a Dana White Contender Series win, 6 KOs in his 11 wins. And he's going in against Allen, who's on an 8-fight win streak and 2 big wins, two big names against Nick Lentz and Gilbert Melendez. The guy has 5 KOs and 4 subs in his 16 wins. This is one that I don't see going the distance.
Oh, really?
And I think Allen picks up a TKO on this one.
Okay. So what are we starting with, Paul?
Allen and Sadiq Yusuf.
Okay. Yeah, what a fucking fight. This is an amazing fight. These guys are just on the cusp. They're so young that you could be guilty of calling them up and comers, but they're certainly not. They're highly ranked. They've beaten some very top tier guys. They've beaten guys that they probably were favored not to. But they've done amazing so far and looked so consistent, which is odd because of how young they are and how consistent they've been. But they've now met at a very pivotal crossroads. And it's kind of almost a shame because I'd like to see the two of them continue and rise, but it has to happen. And what a fight. It comes down on the co-main event of a good card, so I'm looking forward to it. But I'm going to go with Arnold Allen. I fought on the same card as Allen before. He's a super nice guy. but an absolute killer in there too.
Yeah.
But Yusuf looks amazing since his even a couple of fights outside the UFC that I would have seen him in. He looks very, very good. He's plenty of power, but very smart as well in his approach. I think it's going to be a fantastic fight. I can see it going a decision. I'm going to pick a 29-28 decision by Arnold Allen. I think it's going to be super tight.
Yeah. And Allen has a chance of going 8 wins in a row. Sorry, he's on a 7-fight win streak. He has a chance of going 8 in a row in this. And that would tally on Edwards' record of the longest win streak by a British fighter. So
Wow.
there's a lot on the line here. For a guy, like you say, that's so young and so fresh to the UFC, essentially. This is he's on a 7-fight win streak in the UFC right now.
Whatever's next for either of these men, it has to be a massive fight.
Yeah.
It has to be huge. It has to be someone like who did Holloway beat last again? The name is escaping me. Cater. Has to be someone that close, because the top of the division is tight. Is slightly tied up.
Mm-hmm.
In the sense you have Holloway, who's going to be next in line to the winner of Volkanovski and Ortega, which got postponed. So I don't see Cater after the big beating he took. He's not going to bounce straight back in there. He needs another couple of wins. And I think then the winner of this will be just a perfect opportunity, perfect fight. And you know what? I'd probably pick the winner of this to beat Cater. I know I'm jumping way ahead and I'm playing matchmaker, but I'm just excited for these two guys because they're fantastic fighters. And, it's a hell of a fight. It's probably my favorite fight of the whole weekend.
Yeah, there's some phenomenal fights though. I wouldn't go that far. I love this fight, but I wouldn't go that far. Yeah, so weirdly enough, you mentioned there about either one of these guys be Cater. I just want to throw back to the first week of January when we did our show and predicted our champions for the end of 2021. Who did you pick at featherweight?
Max Holloway.
Nope.
Fuck. I wouldn't mind, but I picked Holloway to beat Cater. Yeah. I shit the bed last minute and I was like, I don't know, I can't change it. Yeah, it's just
I know. How the landscape can change in such a short space of time.
And the worry is it's not like I've seen it myself taking a beating and coming back far better. And I'm not saying that's not what Cater's going to do, but fuck me, that was a beating.
Yeah,
that was one of the worst, some of the biggest amount of strikes absorbed. It was insane. But look at the featherweight division is on fire, absolute fire. So it's going to be interesting.
It's actually very akin to the beating that Gaethje put on Ferguson, and we saw Ferguson's next performance.
Yeah.
So
Cater took a worse beating than Ferguson.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
So you have to worry for the guy. I 100% agree. Moving on to the main event, we have Marvin Vittori versus the aforementioned Kevin Holland. Kevin Holland, of course, he's bouncing back from that loss to Brunson, in which he looked less than spectacular, let's put it that way. But before that 5-fight win streak, we all know about it. 2020 was a good year for Kevin Holland. He has 12 KOs and 5 subs, and he's 21 wins. Going in against a guy in Vittori who looked at the beginning of his UFC career like he was going to trade wins and losses, and he's gone on a 4-fight win streak since then with big wins. Win over Jack Hermanson in his last one. He's got a win over Carl Roberson before that. And of course, everyone's pointing to the loss against Izzy, the fact that it was a split decision and someone gave him a win on one of their scorecards. He also has 2 KOs and 9 submissions in this one. Now, I'm going to get some shit for this because I threw shit at Kevin Holland. I think Vittori's only way of winning this is getting it down to the ground and submitting Kevin Holland, because I think Kevin Holland has too much for him on the feet. And I predict Kevin Holland by KO.
Holy shit, I have Vittori having not even an edge, but him having an advantage. His best chance of winning on the feet or by decision.
Oof.
And I have Holland being a better submission. He's just one thing that I will say about Holland is he got taken out very easy. We all know that.
Yeah.
We all know that. But I think I think he'll be kind of I'm sure when he looks back at the fight, he'll have plenty of things that he'll be angry with his performance. But I think one of the things is he didn't throw up enough off his back. He's extremely dangerous off his back. He didn't attempt enough subs. He didn't jump on enough submissions. He was just kind of accepting and talking. You know what I mean? I think it's a great fight. Firstly, let's talk about Vittori. He was made to fight a rangy southpaw striker. Now he's fighting Kevin Holland, a rangy, orthodox, well-rounded fighter, to a very different fighter than Darren Till. Darren Till is very methodical in his approach, very, very well schooled from that southpaw stance. But Kevin Holland is outrageously powerful, unorthodox, and very hard to read, almost karate like in his he's a kung fu fighter is what he comes out to, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then Kevin Holland is the unique opportunity to shut everybody like us up, in the sense that we were like, okay, yeah, he kind of got found out. Yeah, he shouldn't have done this. He shouldn't have done that. But a win over Vittori, in my opinion, is a much bigger win than over Brunson. So he almost erases that by a win over Holland. So he has this unique opportunity to just right a wrong. But he's a hell of a task ahead of him. I'm going to go with Vittori on this. I'm going to see Kevin Holland pick up his second loss in a row, but I'm going to go by a 5-round decision. I think Holland goes the distance again. Yeah,
look, he's proved to be a tough guy to finish. But he has those 2 submission losses on his record. Kevin Holland does. And that concerns me if it goes to the mat. And I know what you're saying, that he is very tricky off his back, and he's well able to pull off a submission himself. But I think Vittori has the edge when it hits the mat. And if he gets on top, I think his top game is phenomenal. And that's where he gets all his submissions.
I can see his top game being a big problem, but I cannot see him getting a submission. I would be shocked. I'd be almost as shocked with that 5 rounds in the Bellator main event. You know, with it going going the distance, I'd be shocked. But it's a great fight. This is what we want. This is what we want. We want great, evenly matched, highly anticipated bouts. This is what we're getting with 2 phenomenal cards with Bellator and UFC again. I've been just. Obviously, I've been training my fucking ass off. I cannot wait to get in there. I've never felt or looked better, but I'm also looking at it from a fight fan. We've had Brave on Thursday nights, Bellator on Friday nights, UFC Saturday, and they've been all delivering. So, as a fight fan, it's amazing, and I just again spoiled this weekend again. So it's a brilliant main event on a brilliant card.
And of course, ONE FC on Thursdays every now and then as well, and they had their card last night. Phenomenal card again. Yeah, it's we're sure we're definitely getting treated. Now, I do want to touch on some other fights, because I know, look, we only got to touch on 2 fights from the UFC, and that card top to bottom for me, there is phenomenal fights throughout, and I'm just going to throw it out there. The opening fight of that card, Jim Miller versus Joe Salecki, is a barnstorming fight. It's not one for the casuals. I mean, these guys are probably going to trade some punches and then play a jiu-jitsu match for a while. Maybe get back up at the second round and throw some punches and then play another jiu-jitsu match. I just think Joe Salecki is the younger, hungrier version of Jim Miller. Jim Miller, of course, making his 37th walk to the cage in the UFC. But I think Joe Salecki picks up a victory in that one. What other fights? Sorry, go on.
Yeah, Jim Miller, man, I love anytime Jim Miller's fighting, I'm watching him. I like that 37 fight. He must be getting a nice paycheck from Reebok each time.
Venom as of Saturday night.
Oh, it's Saturday it's coming? I've seen the new, okay, cool. Looks actually pretty nice too, to be honest, even though I just don't like that whole Venom Reebok. I think just wear whatever the fuck you want to wear.
Yeah.
But But anyway, I'm not gonna get into that. I'm gonna pick Jim Miller. I think he's hands full for sure, much hungrier man and a very good grappler. But I think Jim, I'm never gonna back against him. I'm not gonna bet for him, but I'm not gonna back against him for sure. A lot of great fights on that card though, and that's one of them for definite. I like, again, the Jack Shores fighting Hunter Azure. I really like that fight. I seen Hunter Azure versus Brad Katona, which I thought Brad got the nod that night in my opinion, but I thought he was unfortunate not to pick up the win or get the decision go his way.
Yeah.
But I think Jack Shore has looked majorly impressive, and I think he'll add again another win to his undefeated record. It's a great fight to keep an eye on.
Yeah, 100%. I have Shore in that one as well.
Another great fight, Paul, is Shizraev. Fucking built like a truck coming out of Russia, and he's fighting Kyle Daukaus, and that's a great fight. I think that again is a very tightly contested fight, but I think Shizraev, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing it properly, I think he comes out and he gets a late stoppage in that. So another great fight.
Yeah, it's about as good as you've done with one of the trickier names, I'll put it that way.
Yeah, I'm diabolical with it.
Yeah, I said this to you before we came on air. I'm not that fascinated with this fight. Obviously, it's two great guys, but I just think I think Kizraev is going to come out and bear hug him for 15 minutes, and I'm not that excited about it. You look at some of the other fights, however, Nina Ansaroff, Mackenzie Dern, phenomenal matchup. You have Julian Marquez. You have Julian Marquez right after calling out Miley Cyrus is fighting smiling Sam Alvey. Phenomenal fight.
Yeah,
and
that's why you're the amateur. You're the casual side. I'm here to look at really good fights. You want to look at Mackenzie Dern, Mackenzie Dern's fine ass,
and Julian Marquez calling out Miley Cyrus. Yeah.
Miley Cyrus. Fucking hell.
And from a casual perspective, Mike Perry's also on the card.
Lovely. No, look, it's a great card. I'm actually really excited to see Dern back in there. I'm a fucking massive fan of her. I think she's just one of these girls that, you know, people talk about jiu-jitsu and it not being an important part or not an important, but an effective part of MMA anymore.
Yeah.
And then you see the likes of her high level jiu-jitsu and you're like, hey, let's be honest now, it is a major part. But I'm picking her by submission. But there's a lot of great fights. We have Sam Alvey versus your guy. But that's another great fight. So two big guys and a lot of momentum with what's his name again?
Julian Marquez.
His name is escaping. Marquez, of course, coming out with James Krause's camp. So yeah, like every fight is super interesting. It's very, very good. And I likewise with Bellator, right down to that card, I'm very excited for these fights.
There's 28 fights between the two cards, and there's not a bad fight among them.
God,
it's a phenomenal 2 days of fights.
It's fantastic. My man Goiti Yamuchi, he's fighting Dan Moret, who fought in the UFC. But I'm going to go with Yamuchi on this. I've trained with him. He's an absolute beast, a gentleman, but the guy is outrageously strong and phenomenally good jiu-jitsu, just beautiful jiu-jitsu. It's funny, you see I've spoken to him, I've trained with him. You see his Instagram and he's lifting ungodly amount of weight, and you roll with him and he's just like the most technical, gentle roll. But he has that beautiful balance of being uber strong with phenomenal technique, and I'm picking him to beat Dan Moret. Another fight I'm really looking forward to is Cass Bell and Jornal.
I was waiting for it. I knew that was coming up.
Both guys who shouldn't be in the rankings, in my opinion, because of that bullshit criteria. But we'll see which one emerges. And, you know,
there's potential on both sides. Don't get me wrong. I think Cass Bell takes this one, but there is potential there. But they're not top 10 guys.
Yeah, I heard John McCarthy speak about Lugo and how he should be ranked higher. And I don't disagree with many things that Big John says, but I definitely did with that. I don't think this is what annoys me with the criteria. Okay, and I'm going to take myself out of the equation here, but let's look at Brett Johnson. He's fighting Mateos, both excellent fighters, and neither of them are ranked above these two guys. Just makes no sense. That's why the criteria is annoying, but. You know, it'll take a few months for everything to balance out, but one of these will drop off the rankings. I'm sure probably one of them will raise up one or two before the next, you know, a couple of events come out. But I am looking forward to seeing it. But yeah, man, what a card! On Friday and what a card on Saturday. We're in for a treat, of course. Again,
being spoiled. We will do our bets of the week, and I know you told me previous that you have a hefty accumulator this week. So while we were talking, I added a sixth. I'm going to match it. I'm going to go for it, and I'm going to do a 6-way parlay, as they say in America, or accumulator over here as well. So my 6 there's 4 from the UFC card. You have and 3 of them have come from Dana White Contender Series actually.
All right.
So you have Joe Salecki, I have Impa Kasangani, who are actually teammates. I have Bahamundes, and Norma Dumont from the UFC. And from Bellator, I have Ryan Bader and Adam Boric. So that's going to pay out all of the money.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I have a couple of safer bets in my opinion, but I have a couple of ones that if you're wanting to make your money, I'm going to tell you what to go with. This I'm picking 6. Okay, 3 from the UFC, 3 from Bellator, because why not? I'm going to go with Ryan Bader in the main event.
Yep.
I'm going to go with Kat Zingano picking up a win, which you're not going to get good odds for. And I'm going to pick, like I said, a guy you have trained with in Yamuchi to win as well. Now he's a stiff test ahead of him, fighting a UFC vet in Dan Moret, and Dan Moret shows that he's a great fighter too. But I'm going with Yamuchi on this, but to win. And then in the UFC, I have Mackenzie Dern, Jack Shore, and Chisraev. Now, if you want to be super safe, take Yamuchi and Chisraev out and back Jack Shore, Mackenzie Dern, and Katsugano, Ryan Bader. I think you're going to come away with money. If you want to be a player like me, if you want to go balling on the weekend, go Ryan Bader, Katsugano, and Yamuchi, and then Dern, Shore, and Chisraev. So
we've 2 absolute wild bets. We could be in the money by the end of this week. Who knows?
We could even accumulate all of them together and make it put 12 fight accumulator.
That's actually, now that you pointed that out, I just realized we've only one pick in our 6. We've only one pick that's the same, which is bananas considering that we've now covered 11 of the 28 fights that are on.
Yeah.
So
28 fights.
That makes me slightly less confident that both of us are going to pick up money this weekend.
I know, yeah. Look, we might as well hung for a sheep as a lamb at this fucking stage. But look at great fights. We've touched on loads in the prelims, and that's only scratching the surface. There's a lot of great fights, and what a time to be a fight fan.
Unbelievable. And on that note, we are going to leave you. We do have more content coming next week from ProAm Predictions. We have another Bellator card. Oh no, sorry, we just have a UFC card next week. And Bellator is the following week, yes. So we just have UFC next week, but we'll touch on that and we'll give our picks for next week's card. So that will be out at the normal time of Thursday next week. We're going to try and get this one out a little bit earlier again for the card as well. So is there
and remember, if you've only one fight to catch in the next few months, make sure it's May 7th. Brian Moore versus Eric Perez. Another big KO coming your way. I cannot fucking wait.
Going to be a banger. Thank you very much for joining us as always, Brian.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Bye now.